Good morning. Welcome to the Money and More Show. I'm Don Emmett, Managing Director of Entrust Associates. This is our segment that we're calling the Small Business Insights of the Triangle. And on today's show, we have an in-studio guest, Mr. Lane Worster of the Splinter Group.
Good morning, Don. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Lane. Thanks for coming.
Nice to see you outside of the gym.
Yes, it is. We do have another life, and
I know, and you wear more clothes than usual.
I do wear more clothes, and although I don't have those, I need to cover up those rippling biceps from time to time.
That's true. The gun show is not always appropriate to bring out in public.
So Lane and I have known each other for a lot of years, and we work out locally at the Chapel Hill Tennis Club. But Lane is a very interesting guy and raconteur, entrepreneur, and local businessman here in Carrboro. And we're taping this broadcast here at the WCOM LP FM 103.5 on your terrestrial dial. We also stream at WCOMFM.org. So if you live more than a block and a half away from our transmitter, that would be the way to pick this broadcast up. We'll be soon publishing this interview on the Small Business Insights of the Triangle website, which is sbicarolinas.com. So when we started off, Lane is a co-founder,
That's right.
Director of the Splinter Group, a marketing organization. Why don't you tell us about the company?
So the Splinter Group is a marketing and design shop. We started in 2000. My partner, Steve Balcom, and I both were employees at a record company called Mammoth Records. Okay. He was the GM and I was the creative director for an independent label that actually started in Raleigh probably back in 1989 or 90. Moved to Carrboro in 91, 92. And we're actually right in Carr Mill. We were above, well, where Carrboro Yoga is right now. So right above, behind Weaver Street Market. Kind of before Carr Mill was really in its resurgence and right after Weaver Street Market had started. So it was a really cool independent label, had a really diverse roster of artists. And eventually the label grew to a really nice size. We ended up having about 40 employees, offices in LA, New York, London. And we had a couple gold and platinum records, over the years. And band Squirrel Nut Zippers was probably the biggest band, at least on the local scene. Seven Mary 3 was another. We had the Dirty Dozen Brass Band, Joe Henry. So really the label defied genre. It wasn't like a hip-hop label or just an alternative rock label or whatever. It really kind of crossed different genres. And at that place I was the art director, creative director, so I oversaw all the packaging, the album covers, got involved with the videos to a degree as well. And the label had great success, and then in 95 or 97 it was bought by Disney. And Disney, although it was great in other fields of entertainment, had never been able to break original music. It had great luck with its soundtracks, but they were never able to sign bands and have hit records.
They own Hollywood Records?
They did. And
Hollywood did bought?
Hollywood was a stinker for years.
Okay.
And they bought Mammoth, and then right at that time, all of a sudden, Hollywood had a hit with Fastball. I don't know if you remember that band.
Okay, sure.
The Way.
I have that CD.
Yeah. So it was a combination of things. All of a sudden, we were still doing well, but also Hollywood was doing well. And they started to, as big companies and small companies do, they started to sort of fold Mammoth into Disney in a way that wasn't sort of the independence that we were promised. So it was that thing of, large company culture, small company culture. When someone would leave Mammoth, we were no longer able to replace them. A lot of the hiring sort of got controlled. And so it wasn't what we had hoped it was going to be. and we wanted to retain the independence to sign artists that we wanted to. We were actually told we couldn't do hip hop because that didn't really fit into the model.
Okay.
So it was a little, we didn't have what we had, what we were promised. So after a few years, they shut the label down and moved it to New York. And my partner Steve and I kind of looked at each other and said, what are we going to do next? And didn't really want to do another music business job because you were sort of living and dying by radio there. You could have these great artists that you really believed in, but if they didn't get on the radio at the end of the day, they weren't going to be successful. They weren't going to sell records. So we sort of took stock and said, what can we do next? And we looked at what we've been doing at Mammoth, and essentially we were branding and marketing. It just happened to be music products. It just, and so we said, we're essentially been operating sort of as an advertising agency, a marketing company, but under the guise of music. So why don't we sort of take a step back and see if we can just do this as a legitimate, marketing and ad and design company, and try to find clients who want an alternative approach to how they're branded and how they're marketed. Less of a big agency model, more emphasis on creative, more grassroots, a little scrappier. So we started in 2000, and we started in Durham because we couldn't find a cool spot in Carrboro. We had been in this Broad Street coffee building, which is just a block away from here, and that was great old rustic beams, and just had a lot of culture to it. And we couldn't find anything cool in Chapel Hill, Carrboro when we started Splinter, so we ended up in Durham. We were there for the first 7 years, and then I want to say 2008 we bought in Carrboro. So we're just a few blocks down now, next to the Farmers Market. We're in the 605 building, which is right next to Looking Glass Cafe, and it was a great investment for us, and we actually just expanded into another space across the hall. So it's worked out really well for us. We love the local community, so it's nice to be right in the middle of it.
So the relationship with Disney lasted 2 years, 3 years?
2 or 3 years, yeah. And then it did continue. The Mammoth existed as an imprint based out of the New York office, but it was not. It really wasn't what it was. Very few of the artists stayed on board, and it didn't have really the same feel that it had at the beginning. We're going to a caller?
I think we may have had an issue with your microphone.
Okay.
I think we've tested.
Test.
Okay. I think we've solved that.
How are we doing now?
Much better, Brad.
Do we need to run that back?
No, it's all community radio again.
All right, man.
We're all volunteers
Cool.
here at community radio, and we unfortunately we're videotaping this, and the microphone and the video is working just fine.
Beautiful.
So I apologize to our listeners in the Carrboro, Chapel Hill area, and also those listening online, WCOMFM.org. We have Lane Worster in the studio, and he has just given us a little history of the Splinter group.
Yeah, and one of the things that sort of led this sort of segue between the music stuff and what we do at Splinter, at least from a creative standpoint, was as the art director and creative director at the label, it was this great sense of privilege that you were sort of entrusted with the visual side of the music. So these bands that you loved, they worked so hard on their craft and the songwriting, and then you got to sort of do the visual embodiment of that and create the packaging and the covers and help them with the photography and all that stuff, how they came across visually. And I never took that lightly because I felt like they were, they're the true artists, and I sort of had this privilege of kind of putting the visual on it. And through the years, I got to get more involved with the music side of things, doing some of the A&R stuff, helping sign some of the bands, but also through the creative process, actually going into the studio with the bands, or getting access to lyrics as songs were being written when the stuff was still in the demo stage. And so I got a better glimpse of where they were coming from in terms of what their aesthetic was, what their message was, and so that the packaging wasn't just this pretty picture. Hopefully it really connected and was an extension of what they were trying to communicate. And that's been something that we've carried over to Splinter. I think the branding work that we do hopefully doesn't feel like it's just sort of applied to them sort of randomly. We spend a lot of time with our clients trying to get to know why they do what they do. Why do they open a restaurant? Why do they roast coffee? You know, what is it that makes them tick? So that the logos, the packaging, the branding, the websites that we do feel like an authentic extension of them in the same way that hopefully those album covers did. So bands to brands was sort of the segue that we made. Yeah. But hopefully the same approach in terms of trying to do right by them. And that's what was always sort of our mantra at Mammoth, do right by the artist.
And kind of take alternative or interesting
I think so, yeah.
approach.
I think because we didn't, nobody at Splinter came from a traditional agency background. And we're a small shop, there are 7 of us. And none of us worked at a traditional agency, so just like none of us at Mammoth that worked for another record label, we sort of have always made it up as we went along, sort of trusted our gut, trial and error, and and try to, like I said, do right by your clients.
So approximately 15, 16 years in now.
Yep, we're starting our 16th year. That's right.
Congratulations.
Thanks. You know, I don't see it ending anytime soon. You know, it's going really well. We've grown every year. We've added employees. We've added clients. We have probably about 15 retainer clients, and they're people that use us as sort of their marketing company, and they retain us for a year at a time, and we have sort of a set of deliverables where we're doing their advertising, their marketing, their design work, and then we also have probably maybe 40 or so projects a year where someone hires us just to do a logo, or just do a website, or a record package, or they're opening a restaurant. In fact, we've got 4 or 5 restaurants just in Carborough that are opening in the next couple months. Yeah, so, and the food thing is big for us. We do a lot of food and food-related projects, food packaging, beer. We're working with a couple cider things right now, which is really cool. Nut butters, coffee, chocolate, stuff that, it's more fun to kind of live those products.
So, in this world, my background is business,
Yeah.
and I have a creative side somewhat, but to me it's dollars and cents in business. And
Right.
So, coming from the creative side, and now that you've been running you and your partner running a business 15 years, how have you, I guess, taken care of the business side?
Right.
What's your, I guess I'm going to say, what's your customer acquisition strategy?
Yeah.
How do you go about?
Well, I got to say, my partner Steve really is the business side of what we do. He's great at that and the strategy, and has a really good sense of who an appropriate client will be for us. We both sort of developed that sense over the years, but I think, if it were up to me, I'd be giving this stuff away all day long, and just, because I sort of come at it more from the sense of it all being sort of public art, if you will, just making stuff, hopefully stuff looks better and our clients are successful. But I think our business success has been largely attributed to the way Steve has run that side of things. But and our acquisition strategy is really, our work is really our networking. It's people seeing what we do, hopefully getting good reports about how we do what we do, in terms of how we interact with our customers. So we don't cold call. We don't really sell that much, to be honest. And that might not make us, the model entrepreneurs, but we've been fortunate. I got to say, we probably get 4 to 5 inquiries a week about new business.
Well, that's the ultimate. Nobody likes to cold call.
Right.
And everyone would like,
Yeah.
virtually, to evolve their business to a referral
Right.
only business, so that you've already achieved that.
I think
quite a
so.
testament.
It's nice to get those calls and emails, those inquiries from people who see something and they go to the owner and say, hey, who did your packaging? And then we meet through that. So it's worked out well in that, and I think one of our sort of mantras has been, you never know what's going to be the big project. So we try to treat them all like they're big projects, because you never know when something small is going to blow up and turn into something big. Like Rise Biscuits and Donuts is something that's keeping us really busy right now. We were working with Durham Catering Company, and that was owned by Tom Ferguson, and he decided to do this biscuit and donut shop. And this was 2012, single location at South Point, and after a few years it was going gangbusters, and he decided to franchise and expand. And so at the end of March, we're going to have 6 stores open in the area,
Okay, nice.
including one
That's
right
the
next
one
to
we have
Fleetwood.
down the block here, right down the block from the studio.
That's right. It's going to be really dangerous. You're going to have a lot more guests coming in because you're going to be having donuts and biscuits here.
Yeah, I had no idea about Rise. Me and the wife had to go on for a bike ride
Right.
in South Point.
Yeah.
She said, I had to get for the bike ride. We went over the American Tobacco Trail, and
Exactly.
we stopped there for a cup of coffee and a donut, and,
Yep.
and we had to wait online, and
Yeah, it's a
I'm
long...
not big on the whole line thing.
Yeah, I know. It's something that they've had to sort of deal with, and but their biscuits are really what get me. And so anyway, that's just an example of something you don't know what's going to be the big one. We did that brand and opened that one store, and now there's 6, and then he just signed franchisees in Texas. They're going to Wilmington, looking at Charleston, Richmond. So it's going to be one of those biggest clients for us all of a sudden, but you just never know.
It's great stuff. So, getting on to the actual doing of the work.
Yeah.
So, most of the business owners I sit down with, one of the big challenges is attracting, retaining, and developing quality people. And,
In terms of staffing?
yeah, I'm sure it was only the 2 of you at the beginning, but now you said you're up to 7.
Yeah.
So
That's right. We actually had a third partner at the beginning, and then it went down to the 2 of us. And one of the cores of our staff is really our design team. And we've got, for the size shop we are, I really think we've got the best design studio staff around. Over the years, we've probably had 8 designers, 7 designers, and they stay. We try to treat our people really, really well. We try to give them exciting projects. We try to give them good feedback. We try to let them deal directly with the clients when it's appropriate, so they have that sense of satisfaction. That's the thing that really motivates Steve and I, is seeing the growth and success of our clients through our work. So we try to let the designers feel that as well. We take them to the restaurants where we do the branding. We take them to shows at the Cradle. We try to have them be very involved with sort of the social and community aspects of the work that we do, so they feel invested in it. And I think that goes a long way.
So why don't you mention, you mentioned some of your clients,
So let's see.
Again, Rise.
Yeah, Rise Biscuits Donuts, Durham Catering. We do Uniquities, the women's fashion store that has 3 locations. Fifth Season Gardening is one that keeps us really busy. That was, again, one of those ones where, who knew? We got hired to rename them and rebrand them. It used to be Carolina Hydro Gardens.
Okay.
They had a store in Durham, and I knew Richard Quinn, the owner. I knew his wife, Ashley, from when I was in grad school at Carolina, and we took the meeting just sort of as this might be interesting, who knows. It was our second meeting of the day, and it was the one that we were taking less seriously than the other one that we had on the books. And once we started talking, we really hit it off, and so we rebranded them as Fifth Season Gardening Company. They do hydroponic, organic growing, and also a lot of DIY stuff like home brew, winemaking, a lot of craft stuff, cheese making. And they now have 5 locations. They've grown to Charlottesville, they're in Asheville, Greensboro, Raleigh. Just opened the second superstore in Asheville, right next to the Whole Foods, off of Tunnel Road, and they're just going great guns. So again, one of those things where you never know which meeting's going to lead to something really big. So they're one that we have a lot of fun with. It keeps us really, really busy. Going down the retainer list, the Root Cellar was another rebrand. It used to be Foster's.
Formerly Foster's.
That's right. The town of Carborough is one, and we did sort of the branding of the town a couple years ago. Came up with the logo and the slogan.
That we see on the signs around town.
That's right. And the marketing pieces, and that was really a great project for us. It was a little less traditional for us in that there was more people involved in the overall process. We did a long engagement process where we reached out to people in the town and the community, sort of asked them for their input, how they would sort of sum up what it is, what Carborough means to them. So we did a lot of data collection because, well, it was 2 reasons. One, to get sort of relevant information, but also to make the town feel invested and that they were being heard, not just that wouldn't this be a cool logo that we would just start putting signs around town. try to come up with something that really reflected the originality of the town, the character of it, the diversity, the independent nature of it. And so, it's clients like that, one of our things is, the worst client is one you don't respect, because you're not going to do your best for them. You really, and that's something we talk about all the time, of really wanting, to have clients that you want to blow away. You really want to impress them with your work and rise to their challenge and exceed their expectations. So, having clients that we really value, whose opinions we really value, you go the extra mile for it. It's just natural.
So, looking back on your creative and business career, what would you say would be the best advice that you've been giving for your career and your business and or the creative side of your life?
I mean, I think a lot of it is sort of it's sort of trusting your gut. I think when you're not on the right path. I think if you're working with a client that's not a good fit, or you're working on a project that just doesn't sync up, or you're in a meeting and you're just sort of having a strange feeling, but I don't know if this is really right. So I think there's some of that of sort of developing a gut instinct of when you're on the right path and when you're not. And listening to that, and being able to have those hard conversations internally and saying, we've been working on this logo for 6 months and it's not going anywhere. And maybe it's time to pull out. And we've had to do that sometimes, and say, this just isn't, we're not a great fit. I think there's some of that. I think there's also this general thing of do what you love, which is probably close to the first point I mentioned. I got started doing what design work I did at the beginning was working with bands, and it was doing flyers for the Cradle was really my first thing. I was in grad school in the communication studies department, and I was
at the somewhat world famous Cat's Cradle, our local rock and music club here in the Carrboro, Chapel Hill area.
And when I was in grad school, I was studying communication criticism. I was on the rhetorical studies side. So it wasn't at all creative. It was sort of analysis and trying to figure out what made this political speech effective or this advertising campaign effective. So it wasn't the creative side of my brain. It was more of this analytical structuralism, Marxist criticism kind of stuff, which I was really into. But I started getting this creative urge and started doing flyers for bands. And bands that I liked, the Veldt, Dylan Fence, the Connells, bands that were playing the Cradle, Miracle Legion, bands were coming through from out of town too. And that sort of started tapping that creative side. Led to working on the album packaging, getting more connected with bands. So I think my point is the product or the thing that you're working on, it was music for me. So, it's hard doing creative work because that work is hard enough. But if you're doing it for something like a law firm or something that you don't feel connected with, it's going to be that much more difficult. But if you're familiar with the product itself and are passionate about that, then the work is not going to feel like work.
And continuing on that thought, as both of us get deeper into middle age and the next generation is coming up, young entrepreneurs, people starting business, and we live in a very entrepreneurial area.
For sure.
What advice might you give to a fledgling entrepreneur or someone maybe looking to go out on their own?
I would say try a lot of things. I would say, I switched my major a couple times through school. I think it's really valuable to do internships. For one, you get a sense of what, you might get lucky and have it turn into a job, but you can rule out something that you thought you were going to really like and be good at, and be like, this wasn't for me. I thought I really liked PR or, marketing or something, and it turns out, I'm really more into design. So I think taking some chances and experimenting like that is really good. I think having mentors and paying attention to brand trends and what you see in terms of industry trends is also really, really important. And having that relationship with your colleagues where you're having this sort of open communication, finding out what other people are doing, sharing their stories is really, really good. It's also probably going to be more and more important to have more of sort of a tech background in terms of just that being sort of a baseline for creativity. So not necessarily deep sort of programming, but just having more of, it's going to be a given that everyone's going to know how to do a certain amount of coding, really, in the creative world.
All right, well, we're just about out of time here at, so I want to thank you so much for stopping by.
Absolutely, I really enjoyed it.
why don't you give us a little plug if someone wants to get in touch with the Splinter Group?
So
your
our website is thesplintergroup.net, not .com.
Okay.
Thesplintergroup.net, and our site is mainly a portfolio. We've found over the years that people don't really want to hear you waxing poetic about why you got into business or how you do what you do. And at least initially they want to see the work. So our homepage is really devoted to that, and we try to keep that up on Facebook and Twitter as well, letting us know what clients we're working on recently, like Pizzeria Mikado just opened a week ago.
Oh,
That's one of ours. And then Cross Ties Barbecue's coming soon, and then Tandem is moving into Carborough. So whenever we get a new project, we try to let people know what's going on. Not, sometimes we wait till the unveil, but often we let people know what we're working on.
All right, so a lot of things going on in the arts and gastronomical community here in Chapel Hill and Carborough. And thank you for stopping by and visiting with the Small Business Insights of the Triangle here at WCOM and our version of Money and More.
Thanks, Don. I enjoyed it.
We're going to take a short break and come back with the second half of the show.